If you were to describe EarthQuaker devices in 3 words or less to somebody who never heard about the brand or the company, what would it be?
God, that's a good question if I had to describe our company in 3 words or less. Knowing me, it would be stupid guitar pedals.
Perfect. Thanks, Jamie.
Somewhere in here is like the first pedal I really bought. KMD analog delay. That's kind of like the thing that started me down. Like when I was younger, like a friend of mine's older brother was in the band that, you know, was a professional touring band, and they would have gear everywhere and we would steal it every once in a while. So like we would play around with like I remember playing around with an old Big Muff and a Boss flanger, but you know, I always thought they were cool, but I didn't own them. This was the first, like when I was like 17 or 18, I went to a music store in Cleveland and bought this for like $40. And like really didn't play guitar without it forever. And like shortly after this, I think I had a Crybaby, but I used it for like filter sweeps while just playing noise. And then a Boss flanger. But this, I still love this. It's got a horrible design flaw, which is that the tone control works in bypass all the time.
Right.
They should have just put it on the delay line, but instead it's on everything. But other than that, this pedal is amazing. Still, I love it. And this is the thing that really started me being obsessed with pedals.
Jamie, where are we?
We are in my basement, where I hoard all of my gear.
You're not kidding.
This is the second home of EarthQuaker. The first one was in my old house, but this is the first place that we had employees. I used to sit here, and then Justin used to sit where the drums are.
All right.
And Fedge used to sit where all the synths are. His real name is Jeff France, and he's our current production manager. And then over here, where all my guitars are, used to be Ben Vehorn and Brad Thorla and Mike Stangelo. And then they're all still with us. And then over here was like our assembly station, and this was an old friend of mine, Corey Race, did it for a while, and then this guy, Ted Pitts, who still works for us, did assembly. And then out here, where all of our clothes and junk are, was the shipping area. And then over here,
where Andy is.
It was, this was like the machining room. And then I used to screen print over here on this table that is now my eBay table, but you can see in the corner it's covered in ink. But that's where I used to screen print.
Oh, wow.
And I used to spray paint pedals outside in the garage.
So you wouldn't get painter's brain?
But I'd have painter's brain permanently. I feel like a broken record when I explain the story, but I had an old broken DoD 250 overdrive, and I bought a replacement for it, and it didn't sound the same as the old one, so I decided I would try to fix the old one. And you know, no one around here could fix it, so I looked up the schematic for it and found General Guitar Gadgets, DIY website, and used that schematic to fix mine, and it worked. And I was like, cool, I did that. And then I built a clone of it, and you know, it took me a long time, but it worked and it sounded great. And then the clone of it that I built ended up being this thing, which I called the Double Burning Overdrive. And this belongs to an old friend of mine named Matt Miner. We were in a band called Teeth of the Hydra together. So like my version of it was this, and I think there's like the bright cap. This one switch removes the tone cap that's in it, and the other one changes diodes. That's all I did, and I ended up liking this one more than I liked the old DoD.
So that was the very first EarthQuaker pedal?
Yeah, pretty much. Not that exact one. That's probably the second.
But the circuit.
The circuit is. And then I made a bunch of fuzz faces after that, and none of them worked. They all had problems. Some would catch on fire. It's like a deceptive circuit. I had a hard time tuning it and like really understanding germanium stuff, but like how much of a struggle that was kind of helped me learn about like pedal electronics. So I just thought it was fun. Like it incorporated playing guitar and making new sounds and like graphic design, which is what I was doing. And then I started making pedals for friends, and then I found Harmony Central and started talking about them there and put them up on eBay, and the business just sort of grew word of mouth over years. And then by 2010, hired our first employee. At this point, EarthQuaker grew very naturally into a pretty big company, and now I have a responsibility to not only my family, my wife and kids, and Julie, my wife, runs the company, to also make things that are cool enough that people want to buy them, so the other 54 employees that we have can also buy food and pay rent. You know what I mean? So that's it's a added pressure, I guess, but it's not one that I can I feel comfortable, I guess, taking on. So to me, it's kind of fun, and I still have faith that I can keep making cool things that will keep our business running, and our people will still do a great job at building them and marketing them and dealing with the business side of things. It's grown into a very smooth running company where I don't have to worry about those kinds of things, and I can solely focus on designing pedals. And that's fun. If I had to worry about constantly lording over build quality, or how things are getting marketed, or where money coming in and out, I don't think I'd be as motivated. I think it would be a lot of pressure and hard to do. So I'm lucky that we grew naturally and in a way that we could figure out, we found all the right people, and we could figure out what it is that we're trying to do quickly along the way and get things in place. I'm lucky that I know all those people to do that. So at this point, we've been around for almost 12 years, more than that, 13 years. And people already are oh, this is, Dispatchmaster is the first pedal I bought, and now I am building pedals. It inspired me to do that. I think that's super cool, and I don't really think of myself as anybody who should be followed or as an influencer or anything like that. But I mean, it's certainly nice to hear that people like what you're doing so much that they're going to dedicate their life to learning how to do it and then doing it. That's awesome. People in bands inspired me to want to keep playing music and tour and still be interested in doing it. And I'm still influenced by musicians now to create sounds, or in the gear that I buy and things like that. I can't imagine that there will be a time where somebody will be as excited about an AFTERNEATH as they would be about a Ludwig Phase 2 synthesizer or something like that. We're I'm trying to find that. But I'm that way with people this. I just bought, I still hoard gear. I remember this from when I first started going to Harmony Central. I used to see these antelope effects all the time, and they're long gone. I don't know, it was probably just a guy making pedals. But there used to be gut shots of this pedal all the time, and it was the most pristine, perfect looking pedal inside, and it totally inspired me the way that I would do layouts of circuit boards. And I always wanted one of these, and I've been looking for one forever. They just don't show up. This was number 116, so I don't know how many of them there actually are, and they're usually blue. But then I had one saved in an eBay watch feed, and it just showed up 3 or 4 days ago, and I bought it immediately because I was fuck, I can finally get this pedal. So I mean, this was one of the things that influenced me. I guess I'm proud of all the pedals, but in particular, ARPANOID is an idea that I always wanted. And in the back of my head, I was people are gonna flip out when this comes out. This is amazing. I love this thing. And I had limited technology. I had to work with a guy to do it, and that guy was I don't think this could actually be done. And then he called me out of the blue 6 months later. He's I figured it out. Drank half a bottle of whiskey, and I wrote this code, and it totally works. So then we went from there, and I was super excited about it. And then it came out, and no one gave a shit about the pedal, and I was so disappointed, and I'm still disappointed. So thanks, world, for not caring about the ARPANOID. But it's probably the one that I'm it's perfect as far as I'm concerned. I love what it does. The only thing it can use, and I think this is why people don't like it, is tap tempo. I get it, but as a feat, as something that I thought of and then found a way to get done, that's probably what I'm most proud of. AFTERNEATH for sure, because it was just like my first time experimenting with like any kind of DSP, and like, you know, I kind of hacked up a bunch of code that already existed, but just the final sound of it is really the result of everything built around the pedal. And like, it's not a thing I think I could have thought up, and by no means do I think it's this like mind-blowing original thing, but it is unique, and I don't really know of anything else like it. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, write tons of stuff around it, and that's really cool. That's like the sign that like you've done something good. Like, someone will play a note through it and like be inspired to write tons of stuff immediately out of it. And I still am that way with that pedal. A lot of times with pedals, I will get bored of it after like a year. And in that time, it probably still hasn't even come out. But like, I'm still like happy with it and I think it's cool, but I've moved on to something else. The AFTERNEATH is one of the pedals that I feel like I always am, you know, I hit a note in it, I will make something out of it, always. I mean, I've only ever really been a musician. Like, I didn't really have any ambitions to do anything else.
There's no fallback.
Yeah, I don't have any skills. I mean, every skill I do have is self-taught, and like, I don't even know if I'm doing it right. You know, I don't know music theory. I couldn't tell you Ohm's law off the top of my head. Like, it's just, they're all things that come naturally to me. And I have a thing where if like, I have to sit down and study it, and like, if I have to learn it and like, it becomes work, I hate it right away. So like, if somebody was like, you need music theory now, I would probably stop playing guitar. Like, it's just, to me, I like the experimentation side of it. Like, with guitar, like over the years, I feel like good at playing it, but like, I would just put my fingers in places and hope for the best. Like, and that's how like it was when I started electronics. It was like, I learned some stuff, I'll build like a Big Muff clone and like pull some stuff out and hope it works and see what happens. And like, by seeing what happens, you start to get a sense of like, oh, here's what a couple like amplifiers in a row do, or like, here's what a filter does here, or here's like, how buffers affect things. Like, that's how I learned. It was like trial and error, and I like the experimentation of it. And that is still, I guess, what motivates me, is like thinking about sound and then trying to get it. The rest of it, I don't give a shit about. Like, I just don't. I wish I did. Don't.